Hey guys, you're watching Team APS, Paul here. Let's talk a little bit about Invasion Vengeance. So this set drops in just a couple of days. I've got loads of videos I want to make with decks and openings for it and all that. But after reading about it, just reading about all the cards, I realized this is actually one of the sets that's really got me excited. So many different archetypes get support in this set. I actually wanted to name them all in this video and I can't, but I'm going to list the top 10 decks, in my opinion, post-Invasion Vengeance that'll be worth building or worth looking out for. Some of these are budgets, some of them aren't, but if you're buying lots of Invasion Vengeance, then surely you'll be able to get some of the cards to make these decks, and I think that a lot of them will be much more viable. So let's hop right in. So the first deck from Invasion Vengeance that really excites me is Aromas. Aromaseraphy now. They get two new support cards, Aromaseraphy Angelica and Aromaseraphy Rosemary. Angelica is a tuner, and the cool thing about it is it's a hand trap that you can actually pitch to gain life points, and we know how important just gaining life points in the Aroma Mage deck is because, you know, that triggers loads of effects. And it's a tuner monster that can actually summon itself from the graveyard, which is extremely useful. It banishes itself later, but not a big deal. You only really want it to synchro summon. And you're going to be synchro summoning Rosemary, which gives all your plant monsters a buff, and that's really great. But also, whenever you gain life points, and we know this deck gains life points loads, it can negate cards that your opponent controls. That's extremely useful. The Aromage deck, I was always kind of disappointed when it first released because I was like, what is this? Why do they only get support in like one set and then just sort of got forgotten? Well, now they do get some new support, and this is actually really great new support. It's already been a strong control deck, but now it kind of has a way to further limit your opponent's plays, and I really like that. So Aromage fans should be happy to pick these cards up. They shouldn't be terribly expensive. In fact, the Aroma deck at this point isn't too expensive itself, so if you already have it, good news, and if you don't, it might be worth picking up. Next exciting deck on this list is Flower Cardian. So they got their first sort of wave of support in Dragons of Legend Unleashed, but Invasion Vengeance gives them a couple of new cards. More importantly though, they finally get access to some real removal. Two of their cards can destroy monsters and spell and traps by, you know, drawing your card and revealing if it's a Flower Cardian. And that's actually really helpful for this deck. It's kind of a weakness I thought it had before. Plus, they get a new synchro that's a lower level, which is cool. And it can actually stop all of your opponent's graveyard effects and even stop your opponent from like special summoning monsters from the graveyard. That's really good. It's level 6, so it's a little bit easier to summon, like I said, and that kind of gives this deck a little bit more control. So you finally can sort of stop what your opponent is doing and not just, you know, have the one synchro that burns for 1500. Also, they get flower stacking, which is that new spell. It lets them stack their Flower Cardian cards on the top of their deck, and we know that's really important. It actually kind of reminds me of Sylvans when I think about it. Plus, like most spell and traps now, flower stacking has a graveyard effect. Can banish itself and recycle one of your Flower Cardian cards back to your hand, so that's really useful. This deck is actually still getting more support in Raging Tempest, so if you haven't already gotten your hands on it, it would be a really good one to pick up. It's not terribly expensive, and it's kind of nifty and novel, but it's a lot of fun. Next is Cyber Angels. So at first I didn't really care too much for this deck, but after playing around with it, it's a lot of fun. And Invasion Vengeance gives us Cyber Angel Vrash or Vishnu, I'm not sure which one it's actually called. But yeah, so it's really, really good. It's level 10, which means it works perfectly fine in a Star Seraph Cyber Angel build. And when it's ritual summoned, it just destroys all your opponent's monsters they special summon from the extra deck and then burns them 1,000 for each one. So like if they did a big pendulum summon or they've got lots of synchros or Xyz in the field, you just blow them all up and deal like 2, 3, 4,000 damage, maybe even 5. That's really good. Plus, it can stop destruction effects by just shuffling a ritual monster from your graveyard back into your deck, so that's really neat and cool. Also, we get Cerevis, which isn't actually a Cyber Angel, but it might as well be because it kind of works in the light ritual decks. It's sort of like Necroz. It's a hand trap that can save your monsters when they get targeted. And also, it can return itself to the hand to negate your opponent's monster summons and banish those monsters. And when it gets returned to the hand, you know, you're probably going to be summoning again anyway, so it's fine, and it triggers like the effects of Saphira, which is cool. And then we get Sprite's Blessing, which just summons any light ritual monster, so it's really flexible. It can summon a Cyber Angel, or it can summon Saphira, or it can summon Herald. So yeah, those are all really great options. The Cyber Angel deck is one that started off with a bit of hype, but then it kind of went under the radar, and it may not be the most competitive thing on the block, but if you already got them, then this is great. And if you don't, they're a little expensive, but you know, they're not too hard to get a hold of, so it's an interesting deck and one worth taking a look at. Next is Gradles. This isn't actually one of my favorite decks, but their new support does get me a little bit excited. We get Gradle Slime Jr., which makes summoning Gradle Dragon much easier. You just get to resummon a Gradle monster from your grave and summon one from your hand. That makes level 8. So when you summon your Gradle Dragon, you actually get to pop 3 cards instead of 2, which is really cool. And also we get Gradle Combat, which can stop your opponent's card effects that would target a Gradle. So this is really useful. It can just negate them, or you can make your opponent's card effect become destroying your Gradle monster, which will trigger their effects. So that's really cool. And the best part about the Gradle deck is it's always been one of the cheapest, most budget decks. So if you haven't already played it, you definitely should. It's so easy to pick all the cards up. Everything's common pretty much. So, definitely worth it. Like I said, I'm not a big Gradle fan, but this support does have me a little bit excited, so yeah. Next is Janzene. So a lot of people are really excited about the support that they're getting in Invasion Vengeance. You get Ding Long. His effect's really useful. When he gets special summoned, you're able to add a Janzene monster from your deck to your hand. That's really cool. It's nice for them to finally have a synchro that gets some advantage on summon, and it can change its level. And when it gets into the graveyard, because you'll probably be synchro summoning with this thing, you get to summon a Janzene monster from your deck. So it floats, it changes its level, and it keeps you advantage. It's really sort of the perfect combo step, if you're kind of going into bigger monsters like Baxi or other synchros. So yeah, it's really cool. And then you also get 9 branches or 9 signs or whatever it's translated to here, which lets you negate your opponent's spells, traps, monster effects, typical counter trap, but also destroys one of your Janzene monsters afterwards, triggering their effects, advancing your strategies. I think that this does help the Janzene deck become a little bit more popular, a little bit more powerful. The Metal Foes Janzene deck's already been, kind of up and down in the meta, so this makes it a little bit better. But if you're just a pure Janzene fan, you might as well pick these cards up. They can only help you. So next deck is one that I low-key have always liked, even though a lot of people don't like it, and that's Iframes. They actually get 2 new cards. They get Multi-Threader, which is sort of a replacement for Iframe Driver. It counts as Driver in your hand and your graveyard, and it's pretty cool. It's like a hand trap. It has a hand trap effect where, if your Iframe monsters will be destroyed, you can pitch it and save them, and also when it's in your grave and you summon any Iframe monsters, you're able to special summon it from your grave. It gets banished when it leaves the field, but obviously that's not that big of a deal since, Omega and stuff's just going to recycle it anyway. I actually really like the card. It means you don't have to run 3 vanillas. You get to run a card that actually has some purpose otherwise, and that's really cool. Plus there's Iframe Accelerator, which lets you sort of clear your field at will, which is, really helpful, so you can actually trigger your Iframe effects, and it lets you summon more of them from your hand. So if you're ever in a pinch and you need to make a synchro play, that helps too. Obviously this deck isn't, maybe many people's favorite deck, but if you are a Iframe player, then, why complain? The only thing is that Iframes are a little bit of an expensive deck, mostly because of a certain Omega, which I hope will get reprinted soon. But if you already got the Iframe deck, good, and I imagine Omega will eventually get reprinted, so this is still pretty exciting news. Next up is Red Eyes. So out the gate they get the Red Eyes Meteor Burst Dragon and the Black Comet Dragon. I'm actually not all too interested in those, but if you are, they do sort of help Red Eyes make more of a Gemini-centric strategy, which is cool. But I'm mostly concerned with the new spell Red Eyes Insight. It's kind of like what Dark Magic Inheritance is to the Dark Magician deck and stuff like that. You send a Red Eyes monster from your deck to the graveyard, and then you can search a Red Eyes spell or trap. This is huge. This lets you search Red Eyes Fusion. It lets you search Return of the Red Eyes. Just all these really great spell cards. And the thing is, the Red Eyes deck previously was a little bit slow, a little bit inconsistent. I've been testing this card because, we're doing our Dark Magician, Red Eyes, Blue Eyes theme duels that I promise we're trying to get them out as fast as we can. It's complications. But this card really speeds the deck up, really makes it a lot more consistent, gets the actual strategy going. I love it. So if you're a Red Eyes fan, then this is definitely a good reason to pick up the set. Plus Insight's only a rare, so really easy to get. And most of the key Red Eyes cards are reprinted in legendary decks too. So if you haven't picked up Red Eyes already, then all the more reason. Next is Subterra, the TCG exclusive archetype. Actually one that I low-key have also really liked for a long time. The thing about Subterras before was that they didn't really have quite enough support to sort of function as a deck. You had to combine them with Prediction Princesses and stuff. And it's not to say that's a bad strategy, it does still work. But now they get 2 new Behemoths, 1 new Nemesis, and a new Trap. And all the cards are really useful. One of the Nemesis, I don't actually remember their names offhand, sorry, but one of them can flip a bunch of cards face down, yours and your opponent, so that's really useful for sort of disrupting your opponent and setting up, you know, your Subterras so you can flip them back and get their pluses. And then the other behemoth can destroy set cards. So you can destroy your own set cards, which you wouldn't normally want to do, but there are some special cases. And you can destroy your opponent's set cards. So the cards that the first behemoth set can be destroyed by the second. And that doesn't just include monsters, you can also destroy set cards. This is all equal to the number of Subterra monsters you control. So it could be like 2, it could be 3, it just all depends. Also, the new Subterra Nemesis has an Aaron Lightsworn Monk-like effect, so any card that it attacks that's set gets punted back into the deck without even flipping. Super useful. In fact, you can combo it with your first behemoth that sets the cards face down, so it means you can get rid of threats super easily, and when it dies, it floats, of course. And they get a new trap, which has 3 different effects. When you activate it, you can protect all of your Subterra behemoths, like all your set cards can't be, you know, targeted or destroyed. And you can banish it from your grave to change one of your Subterras to defense position. And if it died, you can summon a Subterra monster from your deck. So loads of cool effects. They finally have enough support to, in my opinion, kind of be a functioning deck, and I think that's really cool. It might be one that I build, in fact. So yeah, sorry I rambled so long, but Subterras are, I kind of like them if you can't tell. Next is Chemic Creatures. So funny story, Alec and I made a video a while back, like asking if Geminis would ever get support and could ever be good, and Chemic Creatures look like a step in the right direction. So they've got the level 2 monsters and level 8 monsters, and these are all Geminis, so they have the sort of slow, you have to read normal summon them thing. But the small monsters are really great because they can get Gemini monsters like from your deck, like they can search them, or they can like resummon them from the grave. So these are actually really useful effects. And the bigger ones give your Gemini monsters buffs, like, you know, more attack points and not being able to be destroyed, stuff like that. And they also have a new Xyz boss monster that's actually really good, can get rid of your opponent's stuff and things like that. And plus there's Catalyst Field, which is a field spell that helps any Gemini deck, not even just Chemic Critters. And they get Burnout, which is a trap, and it lets you get rid of one of your Gemini monsters, and then later it can come back and summon more from the deck. It's crazy, you have to read them all. But Chemic Critters, neat. It gives your regular Gemini support, you know, a bit more use. Now you can use your cards like Gemini Spark or Swing of Memory, so that's really cool. And you can even combine it with a Red Eye strategy. So one of the neat new archetypes that's coming from this set. And last on this list is Christrons. At first I had no clue what this thing was, like what this archetype was, but they're water machines. And the cool thing is they sort of remind me of like a mix of like Janzenes and Synchron's. They're actually all able to destroy other monsters in the field to summon their tuner monsters straight from the deck. So that's extremely convenient, although it does mean they can be a bit slow to start. But their tuner monsters let you synchro summon during your opponent's turn, and you can even synchro summon with like stuff from your hand and stuff from your grave, depending on the tuner's effects. So that's extremely useful. Plus their synchro monsters have really good effects, and their synchro monsters also, one of them at least, 2 of them are tuners, and they can make the bigger guy or any other machine type synchro monsters that you want. So while this all sounds confusing, it actually works out perfectly fine. And they've got some really good traps to go along with them. Do some more research into that archetype. It's one that I might actually build because there are a lot of cards coming out for it and in a lot of rarities. So if you're buying like lots of packs of this, you're probably going to see this archetype. So that concludes the 10 decks that I am most excited about from this set and that I would recommend picking up and building if you already have them. And you know, there are loads of other archetypes that got support from this. Aliens, Super Heavy Samurai, totally awesome, works for frogs of course. Ignites, Satellar Knights, and of course my favorite, X-Sabers, finally getting Saber Reflection. So that's really cool. Thumbs up this video if you want me to upload an X-Saber deck profile, like super in depth, like, you know, combos and all my favorite things. Because if you've been watching this channel, you know that's my favorite deck ever, so yeah. All in all though, Invasion Vengeance is a super exciting set. I'm really excited to open it, and this month I'm going to be giving away a box of Invasion Vengeance provided by TCGplayer, my sponsor. Check out the link in the description for how to enter, how to increase your chances of winning. And also, if I can get to 50,000 subscribers on my channel before December, I'll give away a second box. But the first one's happening no matter what, so yeah. Anyway, look forward to more Invasion Vengeance content. I'm going to be doing, you know, unboxings. Terrell and the twins are going to probably be doing different deck profiles. It's going to be a lot of fun. Social media and sponsor stuff is also down in the description. And that's going to be all for this video. So I'll see you guys in the next one.